Greetings, music lovers. Welcome to the Raga Room. The topic we have for you today is called Aprachalit, which means rarely or unheard of. When you bring this concept of rarity to the ragas in music, our knowledgeable guest, Abhijith Shenoy, in simple and easy phrases, has described them as rarely found, rarely taught, rarely learned, rarely performed, rarely heard, rarely appreciated. Although it has a ring of an archaic lenience, this is a treasure that waits to be tapped, which is exactly what our next guest is in the pursuit of. Without further ado, I'd like to welcome Abhijit Shenoy to the Raga Room.
Abhijith Shenoy K goes by the name Abhirang. He was initiated to music by grandparents and his parents. Abhijith has learnt Hindustani classical vocal in Gwalior Gharana Shaili from Pandit D.B. Harindra of Bangalore for 23 years. He has also learned from Pandit Ramachandra-Janthalli of Hubli. He has learned Tumri Gayan under the guidance of Srimati Aditi Upadhyaya Kekedi. Abhijit has completed Vidvat Antya from Karnataka State Government and Sangeet Alankar from Akhil Bharatiya Gandharva Mahavidyalaya Mandal, Mumbai. Presently, he is doing PhD on the topic of voice culture. Abhijit has been awarded the title Rag Ratna by Ragamitra Pratishthan for his efforts in exploring rare Aprachalit Anvat Raags in Hindustani classical music. He is also the recipient of the Aryabhatta Award and Yuva Chandrahasa Puraskara. He has composed around 300 bandishes under the pen name Abhirang. The first part of his book was released in 2017, featuring 75 compositions spanning 50 rags. Abhijit is the president of Ninad Sangeet Sagar Foundation, a music trust dedicated to promotion of Indian classical music by providing a stage to deserving upcoming artists. Two audio CDs, Ninad and Nadamrit, were released recently by Lahari Recording Company, Bangalore. Abhijit conducts online classes in Hindustani classical vocal for aspiring students of music both in India and abroad. Currently, Abhijit is working on the Harindra-Janthalli project as a tribute to his gurus in reviving the Aprachalit Raags.
Welcome to the Raga Room, Abhijit. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much, Deepaji, for having me here. It's a wonderful opportunity and to be showcased and to be recognized for whatever little work I'm trying to put across. Thank you so much.
I think this is going to be a very educative episode because the kind of work that you are doing, just the name suggests, is Aprachalit. So, to begin this episode, I would like to quote your Guruji, Pandit D.B. Harindra's words. He says,
All rags come within the gamut of the seven notes. Thus, no rag need to be given the tag Aprachalit, provided an able artist studies and presents them in a sabha of interested audience. Even one reference, one recording is sufficient to keep alive a rag for the generations to come. And that must be your legacy. Music has given you everything. What can you give back?
Yes, actually, if one goes just 40 to 50 years back and explores the Sangeet magazine, which comes from Sangeet Karyalay Hathras, UP, one would find that rags like Kalavati, Chandrakams were tagged as Aprachalit back then. They were not very well known. It's only when someone picked it up, explored it, maybe as a classical or semi classical, light classical, or even a film composition, that people got to hear it for the first time and they started enjoying it. And now it has become part of everyone's repertoire. So I feel that the first effort, that initiative is very important in reviving such rags. And as sir used to say, that everything is within the seven notes. So if you're already calling them Aprachalit and no one makes an effort, then I think they will go extinct, and we would lose a wonderful treasure which we have.
That is such a great point. And rags like this need to be heard, need to be presented, need to be learned, and they will no longer be a Prachalit. So, how did you begin your journey with this project?
It is just following in the footsteps of my Guruji Pandit D.B. Harindra-ji, and also Pandit Ramchandra-Janthalli ji of Hubli. They have done a lot of work in the area, but I would say that in their times, they didn't have this opportunity of technology to reach out to people with the work. In the recent months, the number of rags which I have explored is nothing compared to how many rags my Gurujis would have explored. But only that we have the boon of technology, and hopefully we use it in the right manner, that we are able to reach out and showcase this work and preserve this work.
You yourself, under the name of Abhirang, you have revived about 300 compositions, is that right?
I have composed around 320 bandishes in the regular, the well-known rags, as well as some Aprachalit rags, yes.
Yes.
And as Guruji used to say that I think artists would have to communicate more with the audience. So it's not that I know many rags and I just announce the name of the rag and I sing it for you. So it's not that. That's not enough. That may intrigue an audience, but it doesn't educate the audience. And such rags, the audience probably needs to have two qualities which sir used to say. One is a little bit of tolerance and a lot of acceptance also, and it needs a different kind of approach and a mindset also, and very keen and critical listening to even understand sometimes what is happening.
Exactly.
So the
And
artist would have to uh, probably announce the rag and a little bit of how it's derived, the source, and what is it close to, and what you could compare it to. And I think I'll just give an example here of one of the rags which I learned from Pandit D.B. Harindraji. All of us have heard Rag Malkaus, known as Rag Hindolam in the Carnatic system. A lot of artists over the years have sung it, played it on the instruments, used it in semi-light, classical, etc. And a wonderful rag in itself. Now let's just change one swara in Rag Malkaus. We'll change the Komal Dhaivat to Shuddha Dhaivat, and thus we get Rag Audav Bhageshri. The five note Bhageshri, as is rightly called, because when we omit the Rishabh and the Pancham in Bhageshri, we are left with Audav Bhageshri. And Audav Bhageshri is known by some other names also. It is called the Purana Patdeep, the older form of Patdeep. It is also known as Kafi That Chandrakaus and also Bhageshri Anga Chandrakaus. It has all these names. So I just first sing the scale and a little bit of sargam in the rag, followed by Adhatintal composition by Pandit Murli Manohar Shuklaji, Manhar.
definitely.
So all of us have heard Malcolms. I'll start with that. Sa ga ma dha ni sa sa dha ni da ma ga ma ga sa dha ni ga sa.
Well,
Now let's change the Dhaivat, make it Shuddh Dhaivat. sa ga ma dha ni sa sa ni da ni da ma ga ma ga sa dha ni ga sa. This is rag out of baggage. A little bit of sargam to understand the nuances. Dha ni ga ni sa ni ma ga sa ga ni sa ni dha ma dha ni dha ni sa ga ma ga sa dha ni ga sa ga ma ga ma dha ma ni da ga sa ga ma ga sa ga ma ni dha ma da ni dha ni sa ni ga sa dha ni sa ga ma ga sa ga ni sa ni dha ma da ni da ma 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 da ga sa ga ma ga ga ni dha ni ma ga sa. Guruji also had this approach of teaching us for hours together only in swaras, because he used to say that the swaras are the background for everything that we sing. So one has to understand the thinking process of an artist to understand a rag. So a lot of listening is definitely required. Coming to the bandish in Adha Tinta, starting from the 7th matra. And this composition actually talks about what is required for riyaz. What is riyaz? What is practice?
Right.
So I'll just tell you the words first. Tuma suraki karo sadhana, tab pavoge guniyan me maan. And the antra, sapta surana ki ikkisa murchana, audava shadava karake gao, manahara piya ki sikha mano, tuma suraki karo sadhana. So anything in music requires a lot of practice and a lot of developing that affinity with the swaras. तुम सुर की करो साधना, तुम सुर की करो साधना, तुम सुर की करो साधना, तब पावोगे बुनियन में मान, तब पावोगे बुनियन में मान, तुम सुर की करो साधना, तुम सुर की करो साधना. सप्त सुर की एकी समूर्चना, सप्त सुर की एकी समूर्चना, औडव शाडव करके गावो, औडव शाडव करके गावो, मन हर पिया की सीख मानो, तुम सुर की करो साधना, तुम सुर की करो साधना, करो साधना, करो साधना.
So beautiful. So, regardless of if rag being aprachalit or prachalit, when it is presented, one doesn't see the difference. And as you were earlier mentioning about tolerance and patience, and an artist being able to present it to people in a certain way, one artist must have gone through such a journey of understanding it, developing it, and making it close to you. And as in one of the articles that you had written, you had mentioned about the notes and how you develop it, develop an interest for it, and um, develop a certain love for it, and then it starts to you start to work with it. So when you are talking about reviving the Aprachalit Rags, so what how do you go about doing it?
One, I feel very strongly, it requires a number of years with one guru. So this should not be like job hopping where you jump from one guru to the other. I feel you should stay and stay true to that guru, because any guru, for that matter, has a lot to offer.
Right.
But a guru understands the capacity of each student, and I think decides who to hand it over to and at what point of time. So it's a blessing to have the right guru, and it's also a blessing to have a good student who will carry forward that work.
That legacy. Yes, definitely.
So both are required. And as to how to explore such rags, yes, Guru Mukhena, definitely the best way that you sit Sina Basina face to face with a Guru and you learn it under their guidance. And of course, even in a our entire lifetime, we may not be able to cover as many rags as we would like to. There's still a lot to do, because mathematically speaking, if you were to just calculate in one thought or in one Melakarta or in one family, you get 484 ragas. And this is, I'm talking only about permutation and combination. The mathematical possibility, I'm not getting here the Jod rags, the newly created rags. I'm not getting that in, but mathematically speaking, you can get 484 ragas. So which means just in the Hindustani system of music, in 10 thoughts, we get 4,840 ragas.
Wow.
And if you take it to the Carnatic system, that is 72 families, 72 Melakartas, where you get 34,848 ragas.
Wow.
Mathematically possible. So that's the scope of what is out there, provided we are willing to put in an effort.
So much of untapped potential.
Yes, and there is a lot, and that's another reason why it should be preserved.
Absolutely. So this is a very basic question that I have. So when we talk about a certain raga, we say this needs to be sung in the morning and this needs to be sung in the evening. This raga has a certain characteristic to it. Some are mellow, some are uplifting. So when we talk about these Aprachalit Raags, as we were discussing just now, does it also have a character of that kind? And how is it documented? And from where do we understand those nuances of these Aprachalit Raags?
The first way would definitely, as I said, be through a guru, and the second, there are sufficient books. Some, yes, I agree, are out of print, but it's still available, which one can go through. But notation will not help you understand a rag, because there is so much more to a rag or a ragini that one needs to go through. So we are very fortunate that, as I said earlier, we have the boon of technology these days, that we can explore through recordings. Audio and video recordings are available, and anyone these days, I feel, has a smartphone, a gadget capable enough of harnessing this recordings. So again, I would again very strongly mention here that it needs a certain maturity to understand these rags, because uh, just a very simple example I will take, that let's say today I learn rag yaman from my guruji, and I go back home, and through YouTube I can search 100 recordings of yaman of 100 different artists. But having learnt basic yaman, I don't have, as of now, even now, the maturity to understand the different perspectives of yaman. It needs a lot more. So it's not just about going to YouTube and trying to learn something. No, it doesn't work like that. That's why a guru's guidance is very, very important before you venture out into such an area.
Definitely.
And then a lot of listening, because you have to understand the phraseology which is used, and then practice it in your own terms. Um, let's say a stalwart sings something which is very complicated, and as of now, definitely I won't be able to replicate it or duplicate it, or even imitate it to that extent. But it needs a certain approach, and the right kind of practice and again guidance would be required.
And it also depends on, like, let's say an artist or an art is just an expression of a person's creativity, what is going on in your mind at that time. And the journey of all the sadhana that you have done manifests when you want to present a certain composition or a raga. So at that time, it takes the form of, it's a representation of your version of it. So therefore, each person has a different, varied version of what they are presenting.
Yes. Even talking about Aprachalit Raags, and some of them, why they have become Aprachalit, there are a lot of reasons. The first one would be some of these rags are not well documented. So whenever I present a rag, or I put up a video on my YouTube channel, I try and make sure that in the comment section there is some a photo attached to it, or something from the books, which I
Yes.
type out in English, so that even a general audience would be able to understand and pick up those phrases. So I feel it needs to be documented enough. The second thing is, some of these rags uh, may not be very pleasant to listen to at first go. They may feel odd because your ear is not used to it, your mind is not used to listening to such rags. So that's where I think a little bit of patience is required to explore. And when we explore such a rag, we start off usually with slow bandishes, Vilambit compositions, because a rag unfolds uh, better in the Vilambit stage than in the Drut stage, where a certain compromises may happen. Should not happen, but may happen. So I feel the phraseology and the nuances of a rag are better understood in the slower version. So
Mhm.
it requires Vilambit to understand such rags and to get used to that rag before we take it to the next speed or to the next level. Again, another approach of Guruji was, he used to teach us hours together only in swaras. We never took up a bandish at the very set, at the very start. So for hours together only in swaras.
I have
And
always to learn a composition that way. In Carnatic music, though, we associate it that way, right? We sing the swaras, and then the swaras are we have the lyrics, and that's how we learn a kriti in Carnatic music. But this is such a great point that you bring up. I think that would, because when you,
And
yeah, go ahead.
dedication to that approach of Pandit Harindra ji, on my YouTube channel, there is a series which I have started called the Swar Arpan series. So I would request all of you to please go through that, where I have sung the rags, Aprachalit Raags, in only swaras,
Wow.
sargam. Sometimes with the tabla or without the tabla. Uh, with all credit to the accompanists, uh, we used to practice sometimes without the accompaniment, without the tabla. But Guruji also used to say another thing. Even if you were to sing the bandish without tabla, a person listening to you should feel the laya of the composition. So that was one reason why we did that.
Wow, how nice. You had also earlier mentioned that there are no favorite rags. Your Guruji always said that no rag should be
He-
your favorite and you should treat all rags equally. But
all
I,
rags should be your favorite. With your riyaz, hopefully you are at ease with all the rags.
but I would still have to ask you this. If there is something that is very close to your heart, what is that? I mean, there is a story behind it, right? Although you say that we should not have a favorite, but there may have been one raga or one composition that you have had a special um, interest, and you have learned it a certain way, and that is dear to your heart. Which one of it is like that? And if you could also sing and illustrate it, please.
Sure. As I said, such rags require a lot of practice. And one such rag, which I really, really worked hard uh, for, is rag Harikons.
Uh-huh.
And I would just like to present my own composition under my pen name Abhirang in this rag.
If before you begin, if you could also tell us a bit about Harikons.
Sure, sure. Uh, that is one reason why I took up rag out of Vageshri today,
Uh-huh, okay.
because as I said, changing one swara will, make a world of difference. So in Audo Bhageshri, when we change the Shuddh Madhyam, we make it Tivra Madhyam, we get Rag Harikons. So Harikons is originally again derived from the Hemavati Melakarta of Carnatic system of music. Uh, and at first attempt, uh, or at first listening, it would sound very odd. The combination of notes is something, uh, as you say in Hindi, hatke. It's very apart. It might
Of course.
sound very odd. And as you very rightly said earlier, the one of the qualities of a rag that everyone looks for is ranjakta. It should be pleasing, right? So it may not be pleasing at first attempt, but I am still going to try today. One of the odd things about this rag that there is no pancham in the rag,
Mhm.
and there is no shuddh madhyam in the rag, and there is no shuddh nishad in the rag. So one often wonders, what shall we keep on the tanpura?
Okay.
So that's where probably this comes in handy.
One.
The swaramandal or the harp, because we can keep all the notes of the rag here. And on the tanpura, today I've only kept the shadj, because
Okay.
that's the reference I'm going to keep and sing for you.
Okay.
Saga madha ni sa sa ni dha ma ga ma ga sa dha ni ga sa. So the first question I would like to ask you as a listener today is, how did you feel?
Um, it's a lot of different things all put together, which is
Okay.
it sounds very different. Many things put together, which are getting together to go to a certain place, probably.
Okay. So, as I said, one of the reasons is I had to really practice hard for this rag. And the second, it also it's not created by my Guruji, but anything that carries the name of my Guruji, I feel uh, sacred to me. And Hari counts, carries the name Hari. So that's
Oh,
another reason why it's very close to my heart.
how nice. Oh. Wow.
पल पल नाही बीते तकत राह तोरा पल पल नाही बीते तकत राह तोरा अभिरंग बरस बरस बरसे मोरे नैनवा पल पल नाही बीते पल पल नाही बीते तकत राह तोरा अभिरंग बरस बरस बरसे ये मोरे नैना अब आयो मोरे साजन अब आयो मोरे साजन भरी अखियन सुख छलकाने अब आयो मोरे साजन अब आयो मोरे साजन अब आयो मोरे साजन भरी अखियन सुख छलकाने अब आयो मोरे साजन अब आयो मोरे साजन अभिरंग के नैन छाए अभिरंग के नैन छाए फिर नीर कहाँ समाए छल के मुस्काने साजन अब आयो मोरे साजन अभिरंग के नैन छाए अभिरंग के नैन छाए फिर नीर कहाँ समाए फिर नीर कहाँ समाए छल के मुस्काने साजन अब आयो मोरे साजन भरी अखियन सुख छलकाने अब आयो मोरे साजन अब आयो अब आयो अब आयो मोरे साजन
Abhirang Barase, just like you said, it is a beautiful composition. I can understand why it is close to your heart. Completely enjoyed it. You were earlier mentioning that in order to understand these, to be present with a certain guru for a long period of time is important. But let's say somebody has been pursuing music and they are introduced to the Aprachalit Raags. How do they go about doing this, or how do they go about uh, developing their interest in Aprachalit Raags?
Okay. First of all, of course, as you said, if there is guidance, nothing like it, direct guidance. But if you have had a little bit of training, not a little bit, quite a lot actually, in terms of number of years with one guru, then probably your my Guruji actually introduced me to Aprachalit Raags at a very later stage, after many years. After many years, I would say. And then, of course, he asked me to get some books from North India and explore on my own. Then I would present a new rag in front of him, such a rag in front of him. And Amma, that is Guruma, sir's wife, used to say that as soon as I left, my Guruji would sit and practice that rag. And within the next class, he would give us fresh insights and how to deal with it better.
Wow,
So this was how we went about it.
wonderful. If you have a message for our viewers, what would it
Yes. Okay. Um, with all dedication to the regular rags, because they are great. Uh, each rag is great. With all dedication to those rags, there is still a lot more to do. And I think it's time we start sharing
be?
openly, and that will keep this treasure alive for the coming generation. And there are a lot of people working towards this. I am definitely not the only one. And to just quickly mention a few names, uh, Dr. Eva Nathuji with the Offbeat Raga series, uh, Vidushi Manjari Kelkarji with her Amodini series. Of course, among the stalwarts, we have a lot of Pandits, Pandit Rajshekhar Mansoorji, Pandit Devashish Deji, who's doing a lot of work. And these efforts also need a platform. One, for example, which you're providing today, the Raga Room. Then, to mention a few others, definitely one can refer the Ocean of Ragas website by Shri Sudhir Gadreji, and internet radio channel, a 24-hour channel, Sangeet Samvad by uh, Shri Hemkant Navdikarji of Pune. So there are a lot of sources available these days, and provided you are willing to take it up, there are resources available. And anyone interested, you may please share even my contact details, and I can also provide further references, uh, my contacts, and we can definitely enrich ourselves, learn from each other in the process. So
Exactly.
very much yes. And the second thing is another two things I would like to quickly put across. Why one of the reasons why I took up Aprachalit Raags is when it came to the point of an exam which I undertook many years back. There was something in the syllabus which I didn't know, and this was Rag Nat Bihag.
Mm.
And I approached my Guruji, Pandit Harindra-ji. He said, even I don't know this Rag. And then I literally had to sit and explore the internet. And you can imagine the internet which was there back then and what we are experiencing now. There, it's a heaven earth difference. So even in those days, I sat and explored, and I found a recording of Pandit Mallikarjun Mansoorji
Yeah.
of Nat Bihag. So I listened to it number of times. Then I went through my Guruji's collection of books, which he had preserved from so many years. I found a single reference, and luckily two bandishes, which I then learnt up and explored on my own, and then went up and took the exam, whatever little I could present in the exam. So I feel that this is another area where we need a ready reckoner, that we need a reference for such rags. When it comes up, we should not be left empty handed and asking for it. So I feel we can definitely work in that area. The second reason why I took up Aprachalit Rags is there are two approaches to learning rags, I feel. The first one is learning rag in itself, that creating such a strong personality of that rag that you don't meander out of it.
Mm.
You're so thorough with it.
Yeah.
But still, when you start exploring on your own, and there are close by rags, just in and around. And when you are exploring without your knowledge, you may trespass certain boundaries.
Oh,
And a
nice.
learned audience and a critic will definitely point this out to you and say that this is not right. So let's be careful and take up this work. Just to give you a very small example, and I'll end with that.
Sure.
Um, all of us have learned Rag Durga,
Mm.
enjoyed Rag Durga. When I first learned Durga, Sir's approach was also he used to tell us about all the close by rags so that we don't meander and we know exactly what phrases to keep. And even after his teaching, I went on exploring further too through the books which I have here. So sa re ma pa da sa da ma pa da ma re dha sa. Rag Durga. The same swaras, when we sing it in the format of Rag Kedar, I'm keeping the swaras same, but I'm going to make it sound like Rag Kedar to you. That becomes Jaldhar Kedar. Sa ma pa ma re sa re sa. Sa ma pa dha pa ma sa re sa. Sa da pa sa re sa ma pa pa da pa sa da pa ma pa da pa sa re sa da pa pa sa ma sa re sa da pa ma pa dha pa ma sa re sa. This is Jaldhar Kedar.
Wow.
Now keep the same swaras. There is a rag which is a jod of Durga and Kedar called Durga Kedar. Sa re ma pa da re sa ma pa ma sa re sa. Ma pa da pa sa ma re dha ma re sa ma pa ma re sa re sa. This is Durga Kedar, a Jodra. Of course, Durga is an entity in itself, Kedar is an entity in itself, but when it comes together, it's a different entity altogether.
The confluence is beautiful.
Now, let's say I have the swaras of Durga, but I am going to include three rags which are not Durga. And there is one prakar of Rag Lajvanti, one of the prakars which uses the swaras of Durga, but doesn't have Durga at all. It has shades of three rags. It has Rag Kamod, it has Rag Tilak Kamod, and it has Rag Vrindavani Sarang.
Wow, wow, wow.
So the scale is such. Now, in such a rag, the scale is very important. The phrase is very important because that's what will showcase the blend. Sa re pa da pa, the kamod stretch. Sa ma re pa da pa. Then let's take it to tilak kamod. Re ma pa da ma pa sa pa. Ma pa da ma pa sa pa. Then Vrindavani Sarang. Pa ma re sa. Sa re pa da pa re ma pa da ma pa sa pa pa ma re sa. So this is Rag Lajvanti, which uses swaras of Durga but doesn't have Durga at all. So that's how Guruji used to teach us that okay, this is Durga, this is Jaldhar Kedar, this is Durga Kedar, this is Lajvanti. Better keep it apart. So
You are
when we
like the
start
magician of.
exploring on our own, when we start exploring on our own, we need to be really careful and we need to know about where we are.
When something sounds so wonderful, why not explore it and why not make it popular? completely enjoyed this. Thank you so much for sharing all of this beautiful information with us and our viewers. And just like you said, there is one concept, if it enters somebody's mind, that's enough to go in depth and research it and explore it and give your own version to it. So, this is something that is going to benefit a lot of people, and whoever would be interested, they would definitely, they should be able to go to our website and get information about your work and connect with you.
So I would also request you, Deepali, to please share two or three links which I will send across. One is for the Rare Rags in Hindustani classical music, a group which I have created on Facebook.
Yes.
The other is, of course, my YouTube channel where I have started the Harindra-Janthalli project dedicated to my Guruji's research work. And the third being the Swararpan series, where one may explore it only through Sargam and Swaras. And for any further queries, they can always please feel free to contact me, and you can please share my contact information too. I am very open to anything, and definitely in the process, I will also get to explore and learn a lot from all of you.
Certainly, this is a great opportunity. We thank you so much for your time and such beautiful bandishes that we got to listen today. Completely made my day for sure. So, thank you so much for being on the show, Abhijit. We look forward to talking to you soon.
Thank you so much.
Dear friends, we hope you enjoyed learning about the Aprachalit Raags. For more information, please check our website, theragaroom.com, for links to Abhijit Shenoy's work. Thank you so much and have a wonderful day.
ah